do believe are alive. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Throwing the Podcast, where we also throw the grenade, hoping friendly fire is off.
Never is.
I am Club Kyle, and I'm joined by Tythel in the Shadows of Men, Ellerin in Lumi Shadows of Sidria, and Kargan in Riptide. Richard,
Hello.
how you doing?
I am doing good.
Alrighty. Well, uh, I believe we are talking about first-person shooters today, correct?
We are.
Yep. So, bear in mind, I am not the expert on those. At
Neither
all.
neither am I. Neither of us are. No one's a real
Yeah, but
expert,
you
but
you
we'll
played
talk about what
way. So like, how many? Would you? Well, how would you rank? I think to start, how would you rank FPS games like in terms of like your genre?
definitely on the higher up. I they're probably not as much as role playing games in general, but FPS games for me, I definitely would rank as like so a little more on the games that I would actually want to play. Just because the more like feel to it.
Well, me myself, I have not played too many. Uh, I saw how Call of Duty fans were, and I just said no.
That's the one thing you can't base every FPS game off Call of Duty, but
I
a
know.
lot of people do, unfortunately, and
Hey,
it
I'm guilty of
sucks.
that. I'm guilty of that, but it's just online play. I really could not get into like that kind of thing at the time.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah. But since you are the more knowledgeable, uh, talk about like I guess to start off with, what are some of your like the FPSs you've played over the years?
Um, so so a lot of the FPS games I have. While I say I haven't really played many of the OG games or OG FPS games, I have seen a lot of their gameplay. I have played some of them, and they're terrific. Obviously, looking back now, like compared to the games
Well,
that
yeah,
they have out now, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, the graphics are shit, gameplay is shit." That doesn't really change how I think of them because the gameplay it's not much different than what it is now.
to be fair
Um,
though, that's the thing with time. Like this is true for any kind of
yeah,
game. Like hell, I remember playing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man PS4, while virtually the same, has is much better with mechanics and flow. So I can see where they're coming
yeah.
from.
Yeah, and it's funny because first person shooters they date back almost 50 years. Like the first FPS game came out in what, like 1972. That
Is
was
that? I thought
that
the first game
was
was Pong.
Pong. No. First FPS style game.
Yeah, I feel like
And that
Pong wasn't. All right.
Pong wasn't an FPS. The first FPS game that a lot of people know is in fact Maze Wars. That's it was it was strictly multiplayer. There never had any PVE aspect. And for those of you who don't know, PVE is player versus
Versus
environment,
environment.
where you face NPC enemies, and
Hmm.
then but Maze War was player versus player exclusive. Um,
Of
but
course,
that
we're
was
talking
the
about
first.
back in the olden days where,
Yeah.
you sat on the couch next to your bestest buddy.
Oh yeah. Good times.
Uh,
But like that was one of the originals, and honestly, I've seen a little bit of the gameplay. Obviously, same thing. Looking back now, seeing that this was the game that kind of laid the groundwork for FPS shooter style games. You think, oh my god, this is terrible. Well, you got to remember, this is in 1970s. Like they didn't have the kind of graphics and technology that we did
well,
now, but
yeah,
they worked with what they could.
like I said, that's just the natural flow of time. Like things get
Yeah,
better. Like look at cell phones, computers, all these things.
exactly.
But
Um,
some of the more famous ones I know of are 007 GoldenEye,
yep,
the original Doom,
yep,
and I believe Duke Nukem was one of the groundbreakers at the time.
yep. So the four main ones that were mainly in the 90s, because that's kind of when FPS games really kicked off. There were definitely other ones that were like more role playing first person shooters. Dungeon Master, Eye of the Beholder, games like those are FPS games, but they didn't really kick off as much as like I like to call them the Titans of the 90s. You had the five main ones consisted of the original Doom, Duke Nukem, Wolfenstein, 007 GoldenEye, and then it was a little later, but the original Halo. Like those were the real ones that introduced like the real first person aspect. And that's funny because no one really up until up until when those games first came out, no one called it an FPS or first person shooter game. They in fact called it the Maze War style. That's kind of what they called it up until those games came out, because that's when it really incorporated the aspect of shooting.
Ah, well, I don't. Like I said, I have very limited exposure, and I all I know about those games personally is that they were big, and you know, people were like, "Oh, this is gonna make our kids violent."
No, no. I don't want to get into that argument. Uh,
Hmm,
but um,
right.
but the but the funny thing is, those those kind of games, they also, along with Maze Wars, laid a big groundwork for what first person shooters consist of now. Like
Well, I'm sure it did, but I think arguably the game that had the biggest impact on first person shooters was probably like in terms of like how they are viewed now, is the Call of Duty franchise.
that is another one. Yeah, that
So
definitely kicked things off too.
so I will say up front, I have never played a Call of Duty game in my life before. I have
You're
played like
lucky.
just brief moments of it. It's like less than an hour, like maybe even less than half an hour.
Hmm.
They were not my kind of game.
Well, the listen that kind of gone that kind of game is not for everyone. I haven't played many of them. I haven't played many of the older ones or the newer ones for that matter. Like the some of the newer ones, it's too Halo based, and I didn't like it. Um,
Uh,
but but like I did at a time play the original Call of Duty. What was it? World at War. That one that one was kind of kind of like the original. And you gotta love the originals. They're really what like shine the most, with exceptions. I'm not gonna point out anything. I'm not gonna say
that's
which.
fine. You're
I'm
allowed to voice
not
your
gonna say any.
opinions.
Well, no, because they're my opinions, and I like some of the originals that a lot of people say are shit. So I'm not gonna piss myself off.
Alrighty, well, for me personally, why I could never get into Call of Duty was people, just multiplayer. I just saw so many bad things about that.
That's the whole problem, because a lot of these games, they're so good, but the community just makes it so bad. Like
Well, bleh. I mean,
at
yeah,
times,
that's true
at
for
times.
anything, though. Rick and Morty, for example.
Hmm.
Remember Szechuan sauce?
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yep. But
um,
for me personally, I've only I've only played like two actual good FPS games. Like again, I've never played Call of Duty. I have played FPS games. The only two good ones I've ever played were Doom and Doom Eternal.
yeah, so after the original games like Halo, Doom, Duke Nukem, Wolfenstein, 007, after those games came out and the original Call of Duty, things for some games they kicked off and they did really well. Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, those did pretty well. And then some of the others, such as Duke Nukem Forever, bad game. I hate to say,
Whoa,
it was
don't wait to say
bad.
it. It's a genuinely bad game. Like I've seen the
Yeah,
cutscenes and like unfortunately it's a case of where development hell took too long. If it had released wait like back in Duke Nukem's heyday, I think it may have been a little bit better. I'm not gonna act like, oh, this would have been the greatest game of all time, but I feel like it just didn't change with the times.
it really didn't. Uh, but anyways, like that's like some of those genres did kick off really well. Some of them didn't, and some of them had a gray area right in between. Think of Doom 2 and then Doom 3 coming out. Doom 3 not good. It's a really I'm gonna just say it. It was pretty piss poor because
It just didn't feel like a
because
Doom game.
it didn't feel like a Doom game because they played it like a horror game and then it turned into action. I kind of get what they were going for, but they didn't do it right. And then what was the other genre that kind of it was like a playoff of Doom? Quake. That was another one. It was the original game was pretty good, and the then the other Quakes kind of dropped off a little bit. Me
Well,
personally, but
I mean, that's the problem with any genre. Making a sequel in any kind of beloved genre or beloved game franchise is hard under the best of conditions.
yeah.
And speaking of perpetual sequels, why don't we talk a little bit more Call of Duty? Because I feel like that's arguably the most well-known FPS.
Okay. The I think that when they made the two different versions of the Call of Duty, consisting of the Black Ops games and the Modern Warfare games, I think they could have done. I think they could have done. I'd say much better if they focused a little more on the actual multiplayer aspect and not as much as for
Yeah.
instance with Black Ops the zombies aspect, because
Well,
not a lot of people played Black Ops, at least for me, for the multiplayer. They played it for the zombies.
okay, yeah, that's fair. And I am not as limited as I am with the franchise. I do know that people mainly play it for the multiplayer. Like, I never hear too many people talking about the story when I talk to people about Call of Duty.
Yeah, the story, the whole story. Uh, I think the story could have also done better. They,
Wasn't
me
fucking
personally,
wasn't Kit Harrington a villain in one of the stories?
I don't remember.
I think he
I haven't.
was. I should probably Google that. Like this was
Uh,
when Game of Thrones was going on, so yes, he was in Infinite Warfare.
oh, yep. I haven't touched that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, Kevin Spacey was in one of them.
Yeah, he was.
Ah,
Yeah, that was Advanced Warfare. I
well,
remember
it
that.
definitely advanced with the times there.
No, they advanced with the times too much, and
No,
it,
no,
it
no.
got.
I mean, the game did predict that Kevin Spacey would become the bad guy.
Good times.
That was well before that shit came out about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, as sad as that is to say, I mean, it happened.
Yeah, that's let's get back to call it. Let's get back to the
Yeah,
actual
we
gameplay.
were talking about Call of Duty.
uh but
Uh, yeah,
I think
so
I think after maybe Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 3, things kind of dropped the ball a little bit when it came to the gameplay and their multiplayer. Especially with Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and I hate to say it also, but I'm right. Call of Duty World War II. Though those games, while they were all right, I think that they could have done better all around.
I mean, uh, here's my problem with a bunch of these games: the frequency in which they release.
That's another thing. They pump them out too quick.
Yeah. Now, like I said earlier, I do know that a majority of the uh, the games thrive on their multiplayer environment. I feel like with the frequency with these games come out, uh, I feel like you can't get really invested in the multiplayer if you don't have a lot of time to work on it.
Not really.
Because let's just say that like you're the average Joe, you have a job and everything. I don't feel like you want to invest your time in something that's going to be outdated in like the next year or two. And like
That's true.
single player games can get away with this because single player games typically have a story, a format. Like they can come back to it. With the multiplayer, you have to rely on people,
Yeah.
and a game lives and dies like based on how many people play the multiplayer. Overwatch, for example, has not released a sequel in a while. Like I think they're just releasing a sequel. It was out for 5 years, give or
Yeah.
take, and it was a strong game. It was a good game. People were
Of
able
course.
to get into it, and it took its time. So like, I feel like if I was working more like a stable job, I would want to sit down and play Overwatch over Call of Duty because I feel like I'm getting more of my money's worth.
Yeah. Um.
Eh.
I can agree there. The whole problem is just you're right. How quickly they just pump them out because then they're good because unfortunately people always most of the time let me rephrase most of the time will 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 kind of almost flock towards the shiny and new. They're gonna see one game, it's out for like a year and a half, and then they're like, ooh, new game, cool, and then the next one just falls off the face of the earth,
Yeah.
and it just disappears and no one's played it. Like I played Advanced Warfare. I went in the multiplayer for I don't know, maybe 2 days because it was something new. I liked the new mobility, and then Infinite Warfare dropped, and I was like, oh okay. I mean, it's another new game. Let me take a look at it. So I'm not gonna say that I'm not one of the people. I'm not one of the people that flocks towards the shiny and new.
Well, I mean that's just general nature. Like again,
Yeah,
look at iPhones. Like everyone's always on the hot rush to get the new iPhone when it comes out. So it's just natural. Like that's just how we are as people. We want the newest, greatest thing.
yeah. Um, but at the same time, there are good there are good new releases that are shiny and new and they work really well. Think for example, the one of the good things that came out of 2016 besides Deadpool, Doom, the new Doom.
And that's the perfect segue. Let's talk about what, in my opinion, one of the better FPSs that's come out in the last 10 years.
Yes. Now, obviously
Doom
we can
also had a multiplayer.
yes. Now I can go on and on about Doom
So can
with
I.
its with its gameplay, with its music, with its fast-paced combat,
But
how it related to the original Doom and Doom 2. Doom 3 we're
yeah,
not going to talk
yeah.
about.
Well, actually, I think Doom 3 is no longer canon within the Doom franchise. But
It's not.
let's really quickly address the multiplayer. It was all right.
The whole thing about Doom 2016's multiplayer was that it played very differently from the campaign. The campaign was awesome. It played like
we'll
a Doom game.
we'll get into the
Badass
campaign in a
demons,
second.
yeah. But anyways, the thing that I don't like about Doom 2016's multiplayer
Is that it had
is that,
multiplayer?
well, it's just that it was so modernized. Like
Yeah.
one, why is there a loadout system? Why are there emotes? Why
Yeah.
why can you customize to make why can you customize your character to make them look like they belong on
I
like a disco room?
I
Stuff like
feel
that.
well. Okay, well, I don't mind the cosmetics personally because like that's part of the fun. Like in Doom Eternal, you can dress up the Doom guys like unicorn, and it is kind of funny to imagine.
That's pretty funny, but
Yeah, but going back to that, I feel like if you were ever gonna do a Doom multiplayer, you just in like Doom or Doom Eternal, it should have been a co-op thing. You and your buddies against an endless horde of demons. Because Doom thrives on the chaos of it all, like the gore and the action. I feel like that's not as constant in the multiplayer as it would be in the campaign.
it's not because all it is I mean, listen, there are cool aspects to it. You can become the demon for a little bit. That's pretty fun. That's something new. You can grab different power-ups, the BFG, stuff like that. That's all pretty cool.
It's
But
just not
I
as
think
it's not as fast paced as the game.
no, it's not. And another thing that I want to point out about the multiplayer, one thing, and it's not as big as, for instance, like some more of the modernization, like the emotes and everything. You know how a lot of the in these action-packed first-person shooters like Halo, you've got a really epic voice announcer like for
Kind of.
everything.
Kind of.
You've got Vega. If you guys don't know what Vega is, it's like this artificial
Oh
intelligence.
yeah, Vega. I'll
You
be
have
honest.
you
I mean, Vega's not as cool sounding as fucking Samuel Hayden's.
That's the whole point. Even if they had Hayden voice the do the announcements for the multiplayer, that would sound a little bit better. Vega's not intimidating. It's not supposed to be action packed. It's not supposed. He doesn't sound that good. If they put a little more like
Oh,
even a deeper tone, that would have done better. But they just didn't, and it kind of took away from some stuff.
well, actually, how much do you know about Vega's lore in the Doom franchise?
A little bit. I never
Oh,
really. The whole thing about Doom is that they're not. It's not really the most story driven.
no,
You
but
focus on gameplay more than
no,
most.
you do. But Doom Eternal did have actual cutscenes, and Doom did have a story. And like part of the fun of Doom 2016 was that it didn't care about its own story. Like the main character didn't. He just wanted to kill demons and like be like, I don't care about the morals of this shit. They're demons, obviously bad. But in the lore, Vega is implied to be the the god, the artificial intelligence god that those guys in Doom Eternal worshipped. What were their names? You know, the angel people who were saying this is for the good of all, but were corrupted by
Oh,
demonic
uh,
power.
um, yeah. Just what are they called? The not the con maker.
The Con
She's
Maker is the leader, but the Con Maker's Forcus.
um. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember. I hate to say that, but
Well, I
I
mean,
just don't remember.
well, I mean, again, like I just remember. But the point was, like, the Con Maker's people, they apparently worshipped Vega. In It's implied that Vega was the artificial intelligence that ran their civilization and was effectively their god.
Yeah, pretty. That makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, but back to the Doom 2016 before we get into the other one.
Yeah.
They it was there. Like I think to summarize both of our feelings, it was there. It was kind of fun, but like it was never a focus. Like I never devoted time to it. Could you say you devoted time to it, Rich? I'm just curious.
The only reason that I did devote time to it, I did max out. It took me like a month, but I maxed out my character's ranking on multiplayer because um one once you got your own setup, it was easy because a lot of people were not overly great at the multiplayer at certain times. But I'm not gonna throw out insults. That's wrong.
Oh,
but
okay. No, no, no. I mean,
the only reason that I devoted time to the multiplayer was because eventually I had to take a break from the campaign. It's super action packed and I still love playing it. It's just that I wanted to try something a little different and the multiplayer was kind of my go-to.
I mean that's good and all. I guess that like trying something new was always good.
Yeah. And that's kind of why. And at that point, like, also another reason was because I devoted a lot more time to multiplayer because I knew that once Doom Eternal came out, because I knew it was, I was like, ooh, well, I'm not really gonna be doing much of playing Doom once Doom Eternal comes out. I might as well just max out while I can, and that's what I did for a time. I just devoted everything to maxing out my character on multiplayer, and then just moving to the next game.
Yep. But with that all out of the way, let's talk about the campaign element of
Oh
Doom
yes,
and Doom Eternal. We'll start with Doom 2016. Holy fucking shit. Is there is,
bro.
is there any other way to describe it? Just holy fucking
There's
shit.
really the whole thing. I have to give credit to one id Software for their development of the game because
In
they
spite of
they
Bethesda.
they brought they brought back Bethesda and id, but they brought back the elements of the original two games in the way that in their
Yeah.
promotion for it they said Doom is all about three things: badass demons, big effing guns, and moving really really fast. That's
Okay.
the whole premise of it.
Yep. And in spite of Bethesda, id Software made a really good game. And I
Yeah,
say in spite of Bethesda, because Bethesda has fucked up royally in a bunch of their games recently.
yeah.
Okay, like,
Let's
oh, we'll get into that in a minute because technically speaking, I have played. I just realized I have played one other FPS game, but I'll into that in a minute.
I gotta hear about this, but
Yep.
let's get back and
Yep.
talk about
Well,
Doom.
it never took itself too seriously. Even though a lot of people don't talk about the Call of Duty campaigns, I have seen some of the cutscenes and it feels like they're taking themselves way too seriously.
At times, I guess you could say, yeah.
What's good for me personally, like what I like about Doom is that it had a story, but the main character was a silent protagonist who didn't care about it. He didn't care about, oh, humanity needs this energy, it's blah blah blah. No, he knew this was a bad idea. He saw where the time was going. He was like, okay, here are demons. I kill demons.
Actually, you know what? Now that you mentioned that, what you brought up earlier, like, they need this energy. That's the whole funny thing about it is that like in some of the older games and the newer ones, you got your character Cortana in Halo, Cortana wants you to go through that glowing pillar of light. Why you do that? Oh, because she told you to. Like, oh, they need this energy. No, Doom Guy doesn't give a shit. That's why
Well,
he
yeah.
destroyed everything.
Well, yeah,
Doom
because
Guy doesn't need a voice.
well, yeah, because I mean, not to get like too technical, but again, they were using hell for energy. That was always going to backfire on them.
By the way, I wanted to point that out. I want to point something out. At the start of Doom 2016, this is a tiny spoiler, but it's not sure. You see that there's a like as you start, there's a little tablet, like a little touch tablet, and it says demonic invasion in progress. If you have to put in a program that
This
says that
demonic invasion.
warning of demonic invasion, you probably shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing it.
Oh, hey, I'm over here. Oh, ooh, me, I found this monkey paw. I'm gonna make my wishes in the most vague way possible. I hope this doesn't hurt me.
This is definitely not going to backfire horribly.
Right?
Another thing I want to point out about the campaign is how it is, and you're gonna agree with me. The music, is what just gets you fucking
Well,
jacked.
yeah,
That's the
because
whole thing about it.
Mick Gordon is a fucking. He knew what the people wanted. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, I can listen to the soundtrack of this game anywhere, and I have fond memories of like being in this game and doing all this amazing shit.
Yeah, good. It was so good.
Do you have a Do you have,
Huh?
out of curiosity, do you have a particular favorite track?
You know, I don't really do. I mean, the original, the actual soundtrack when, like at the start, like when he's in the elevator, and at the end of the game, I love- pretty much like that was probably my favorite. It was just because, like, that's the first music I heard when I played Doom. When I played Doom 2016, because just there was like the soundtrack when you first start and you're fighting like in that one room, but once you get into that elevator, that's where things really kicked off. And at the end of the game, when I heard that song, I was like, "Fuck, man, that was awesome through and through." But that was a good way to start and end that game just with that soundtrack, and that's kind of why I like that one so much.
And it is okay. Personally, my favorite track is the BFG division because I just like the but
That's a pretty good one too.
and it's a shame because do you know what happened with the music in Doom Eternal?
Uh, you know, I never really paid attention to it. I still just heard Mick Gordon's music and I was like, okay, this is good.
In the
But
game, it was good, but when the collector's edition, uh, the soundtrack was kind of eh because there was a series of errors in the tracks on how the soundtrack was mixed.
was there?
Yeah,
Huh.
and Mick Gordon apparently was upset about that because he didn't have any control over that.
Hmm. I didn't know. I never noticed that actually. I really think that was.
Yeah, specifically in his tweet, he said that Meat Hook, Command and Control, and a few others were were several tracks that he did not do edit himself. And it's really sad because A, Bethesda found a way to fuck up Doom Eternal somehow. You knew they would.
Yeah.
A good game? Why, I'm allergic to that.
I love I know you joke, but the funny thing is that's true. That's
Especially
true.
in recent years. We'll get into them in a second, but I also feel bad for Mick Gordon because he knows what he's doing.
Of course he
He has
does.
a passion for it. So to see Bethesda and maybe its software, I'm unclear on who was to blame for that. For all I know,
Oh, hey,
I think it probably was Bethesda though, if I had to put my on it.
What you guys up to?
I think it was. We're doing a podcast.
Yep. Oh, hi. Guess we're Okay. Okay. While that's happening, I'll further explain. Because Mick Gordon seems like a guy who loves his music, and it sucks to see that the editing quality was taken away from him.
The editing quality, he wasn't allowed to finish his album. Or his official soundtrack.
That's what I mean. He wasn't allowed to. Also, Deacon's dropped by unexpectedly. Hi, Deacon.
Dropped by unexpectedly. I saw both of you sitting in
Yeah.
the chat, so I was like, I might as well pay him a visit.
Yeah.
We're doing a podcast on FPS games where we're talking about Doom and Doom Eternal.
Yep. We're streaming right now.
Oh, bruh. Both of those games are awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
Future note, if you're gonna pop in, let me know in advance so I can have the screen accurate. Because I have like a thing where if you look at my account, you'll see the thing. So, but what was I saying? Yeah, but
Talking about how Mick Gordon's
yeah, he kind of got screwed over in that, and I do feel bad about that because any musicians have control over how their music's presented.
Yeah, and I will say, still with Doom Eternal, the music, while it was good, while it was amazing, while it was still awesome, I don't think that it was as hyped up as Doom 2016 at times. Like, think of this. The original, like the sound when you join in, like at the start, like at the loading screen for Doom Eternal, a little too sci-fi, not hardcore.
I kind of liked the menu for Doom Eternal's music, like just because it was different, and I could just listen to it in passing, and I could be like it. But I do agree that it doesn't sound Doom.
Yeah, and that's kind of why they put a little too much, almost like a sci-fi sound to it. Which you know what, it's, if they wanted to do something different, that's fine. But I don't think it was like what you said, the Doom type feel to it,
No,
like it should have been.
It's a good song. Like, I do like the track. Like, it is a good theme. It doesn't feel Doom. And maybe that was the point, but I mean, I like it, so But I would quickly like to touch up on a series that's technically an FPS, Fallout.
Okay. Oh boy.
Okay.
Oh
Go
dear
ahead.
God! Do not get me
Go
even
ahead and
started
start.
on that bullshit.
Go and start us.
Alrighty, so for the sake of this, we're going to be referring to Fallout 3 to 76 because that's around the time the series did transition to more of an
I
FPS
just
feel.
threw up when you said 76.
Yeah, we all did. Anyways,
Yeah, a little bit.
Fallout 3 was really good. We all know that. Fallout 4 was
Yeah.
okay. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. There were some issues, but I enjoyed it.
Fallout 3, New Vegas was by far the best.
Oh, I was about to get
You know
into
what's
that.
funny?
I was about to get
what's
into
funny?
that.
The only Fallout game I really played besides the original was New Vegas. It was a gift from a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this actually is a really good game. I
And-
don't know why they went.
And you know what? Bethesda didn't make that.
Oh,
It was the
Obsidian
original
did.
creators of
Obsidian.
Fallout that made it.
And there is actually a big ass problem with that. How much do you know about the development of Fallout New Vegas?
That the original developers were only allowed to use the Fallout 3 assets.
No, that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem was in their contract, and I don't know if this, I'm pretty sure this is true. Apparently, if the game did not receive good enough reviews, they they were allowed not to pay them for their work, like as much as they were promised. And there was a rumor that Bethesda paid sites to give it lower scores. I cannot confirm if those rumors are true. I want to say that up front. I cannot confirm that. But the fact that they had that in their contract at all is pretty shitty.
Yeah.
It's really shitty. Because I agree with you. I think Fallout New Vegas is the best in the series, like in terms of when Bethesda took over.
And the whole funny thing is that it's a spin-off. It's not like it's not, it doesn't really tie to like the Fallout 1 through 4 like the actual.
Oh, you want to talk about a game that doesn't tie into any of the Fallouts? Let's talk about 76.
Okay.
It's shit. We all know it's shit. The fact that we had to like it was probably the worst game of that year. We all know it was shit.
Well, man, it was an online multiplayer experience
Who wants
with
that?
pay to win
No, it wasn't just pay to win.
and shitty servers.
Well, actually, to be fair, it actually wasn't pay to win. I played that on launch day. There were no microtransactions for pay to win. It was just
Yeah, at launch day, yeah, but then over time.
oh yeah, over time.
Oh dear God, you would be wrong.
Oh yeah, and then like you had to pay DLC to get like the decent version of the game. It was a mess. We can all agree it was a mess.
Yeah. We're gonna all mutually
Wait, are you talking
agree
about that?
Fallout 76 was garbage.
Are you talking about that shitty subscription service that they released?
Oh my god, I forgot about that. I was thinking of a different subscription. I was thinking of a different thing they tried to get people to pay for. I forgot that was a thing.
I never played Fallout 76, so I can't really tell you much about it.
You are lucky. I played it. I played it when it was at its worst. And it wasn't just that the game was bad. Everything surrounding the game was bad. From the marketing to the tie-in stuff to everything.
It was all bad.
Yeah, like apparently the helmets they gave creators might have given them lead poisoning or some shit.
Oh god.
The bottles, like god. This is probably one of the worst games of all time. Not just because the game was bad, but because everything was so poorly managed.
Huh.
Like, as bad as like a bunch of other games are, you cannot say that like I cannot count any other game that has had the reputation and just poor quality of everything surrounding it as Fallout 76.
I'd say yeah to that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I can only base it off like what people have described about Fallout 76. I know that I know the original Fallout was good. I heard some other things about Fallout 2 and 3, and then I played Fallout New Vegas and I was like, this is what the whole Fallout series is like. Awesome. But apparently my judgment was a bit askewed.
Fallout 4 was okay. Like, I will say that up front, Fallout 4 was okay. Honestly, the biggest flaw in that game was the Minutemen, just because, oh my god, I hated the Minutemen. Like, they're supposed to be like the lawful good, effectively, in that game, and like, they have nothing of substance to them.
Another settlement needs your help.
Right? Like, that's all they were. I hate the fucking Brotherhood of Steel. They're a bunch of assholes, and they had more death. In fact, I actually kind of...
Yeah.
In fact,
you want to know something funny about the Minutemen, all right? You are a general, and yet you are doing something that a common soldier would do.
Yeah, right? Not only that, do you know about the cut content from Fallout 4 with the Brotherhood of Steel?
No.
Okay, so in the game...
I heard you were supposed to become an elder, right?
Okay,
you were able to become an elder?
Let me explain. In the game, the Brotherhood of Steel hates these things called synth. They hate technology in the hands of anyone other than themselves. They are very different from what they were in Fallout 3. Like Fallout 3, they were the good guys. It's all led by this asshole named Max. And
Elder Maxim.
Elder Maxim. And one of your allies, your companion who is allied with the Brotherhood of Steel, he's a very true believer. Loyal
Paladin
to the cause.
Dance.
Paladin Dance. He turned out to be a synth. So you're faced with the choice of killing him or letting him live. And if you're a good person, you let him live. I mean, the game doesn't have a moral system, but that's neither here nor there. And in the game proper, the finished product, Max just lets him go. In the cut content, you could kill Max and take control of the Brotherhood of Steel, making them more open-minded and having Paladin Dance give a speech about, yeah, I'm a synth, but I believe in our cause. And when I heard that, I was like, why wasn't that in the game? That would have been awesome. Because the problem I had with the Brotherhood of Steel was Max is an asshole. Literally. Like, the technical villain of the game, the Institute, they are better than Maxwell. Alright, I'm done ranting about Fallout. Now let's go to the other big FPS series. One with a developer with the same quality as Bethesda. EA's Battlefield.
Oh boy.
You know what? Out of curiosity, who do you think is worse, the two of you, EA or Bethesda?
EA.
Deacon? Well,
Deke.
oh, okay. I personally think Bethesda's worse.
Activision.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's always true.
I mean, yeah.
But I think
Because Activision has been doing this way longer than EA has.
True, but I think Bethesda's worse just for a bunch of the shit that they have been guilty of. Not just because they made a bad game, mind you. I'm not that petty. It's their business practices that I hate. But moving on.
Well, that could be more or less blamed on ZeniMax, which is their parent company.
I mean, that's fair, but Bethesda's the name in front, so... And I don't know how much they have over...
That's true.
I don't know how much control they have over Bethesda's marketing.
Well, to the point that their lead developer, which is
Todd Howard?
Todd Howard, yep, is not allowed to even work on their games. All he's able to do is marketing, and that's it. Even though he was the lead developer.
That actually makes a lot of sense now, because I think Todd Howard is partly responsible for Bethesda's marketing fuck-ups in the past. But moving on to Battlefield. The only one I ever saw that was actually kind of decent, like the only one I ever saw, was Battlefield 1. The one that was set in World War 1.
Alright, I'm gonna
Battlefield 4, like right now, it's actually in a very good state. It's just that there's not a whole lot of people playing it anymore.
Well, I heard that... Wait, is Battlefield 4 the recent one? The one with that god-awful trailer?
I think it is.
Yep.
Wait. No. Battlefield 5 is the one set in World War II.
Okay, yeah, Battlefield 5. That's the one that, like, I saw the trailer for, and I just was, as a history buff, I was like, why? God, I remember people hating that trailer.
All because of one character model, the fucking woman with the mechanical claw.
Oh my... Look, again, I'm a history buff. I also believe in fair play, all people are equal and all that. But history happens.
No, it's not even that. It's because of the mechanical claw. They're like, bro, this, like, yeah, no.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get into. History's history. You can't change it no matter how much you want to.
No, you can't.
So, putting a fucking thing that should not have existed in World War II kind of feels like a betrayal. And I get that's a video game, and sometimes you gotta make sacrifices. But when you had Battlefield 1, which was really good with keeping things mostly historical accurate, I do say mostly, because again, still a game. Still a game. It just kind of feels like a it kind of feels like a drop in continuity.
Little bit.
And I don't know much about the Battlefield series other than it's the other Call of Duty.
Well, I gotta give him props for one of the campaigns. There's a campaign in there where you actually get to play as a Tiger commander in the Nazi army, and that was actually, like, my opinion, one of their best campaigns. Like, I was actually surprised.
But you're playing for the Nazis.
Well, okay, look, it's more so that your character's coming to realization that your
Nazis are
your
bad.
thing is not exactly that they are pieces of shit.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, I needed a lot of context there. I just heard, oh, you play for the Nazis. Okay.
Yeah, basically, but no, I mean, they did a perspective in the German army,
I mean,
which is what I was saying. Like, I was surprised that they did that.
Okay, well, you know what? I will give it this. I do respect going that angle. And actually, EA did try that a while ago in Battlefront 2. They remember how that was marketed for the campaign? You play as for the Empire. I think that only lasted like 3 or 4 missions.
No, not even 2, dude.
Was it not 2?
Actually, no,
it
was 3. It was 3 missions.
3 missions. That's right.
3 missions, and all of a sudden you're a rebel commander. I'm like, what the fuck? You advertised a game that is based on Imperial Field. Now, if you wanted to go down the good route, or a somewhat good route, you could have done it that the character that we're playing as forms the First Order. That would have made a lot of sense, because yes, the Empire is doing some bad shit. But the thing is, you are a Imperial
special officer, like
special unit.
Yeah,
like,
she would
you would be indoctrinated to the point where you wouldn't think this at all.
Right? Like, God, that was. I mean, at the very least, they should have just made it the player's choice. Like, just make it a non-canon game. Hell.
I mean, like, the thing is, though, like, it would have made more sense. Like, your character, like, sees that, oh, the Empire is not worthy at the moment. Like, we're doing bad stuff. You know, we were made for the people.
I mean,
what could have happened was the formation of the First Order.
I know, but
that would have made more sense.
Honestly, Star Wars games deserves its own day to talk about. But going back to Battlefield, I just know it as Diet Call of Duty. Is that a wrong description for it?
Diet Call of Duty. I'm not sure. I almost feel like Call of Duty is like the Diet Battlefield, but that's personally me. You guys can kind of tell me otherwise if you want.
I'm not into this. Like, for all I know, I just know one of them is the diet version of the other.
Actually, I agree with Richard here.
Alright then.
Like Call of Duty right now, especially with their Warzone campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's become a diet battlefield.
Alrighty then. Then I will apologize and correct myself. Call of Duty is the diet battlefield.
Because the thing is, like, Battlefield has been known for, like, the grand scale,
grand scale battles, and
Levolution, destructible buildings, all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
way before Call of Duty's ever thought of it.
Yep. So I will call it the diet battlefield. Then that is my fault.
You know
I
what?
apologize.
I'm gonna say this at least, that originally I think Battlefield was like the Diet Call of Duty, and then they kind of switched where Call of Duty has become like the Diet Battlefield.
Well, I mean, that's a debate for another time, but
yeah,
if we're gonna talk about FPSs, because we're getting close to the hour mark, we gotta talk about the controversy of FPS games. We should talk about that because I think it is worthy of discussion. The FPSs are generally the examples, other than Grand Theft Auto, about why people say video games cause violence.
I mean,
no, like I see it as an outlet for aggression.
I do too, but why do you guys think?
And the fun, okay, look at it this way, right? Japan has over 90% of their population plays video games, and yet they only have not even a 10th of our crime rate.
Okay, we'll get into that, but for now, why do you guys think that it's people playing video games for violence? Like, why do you guys think, like, the common man? We're not talking about news. We're not talking about politicians. Why do you think that the average Joe would say, oh, FPS games in particular are what's causing violence.
I would say mainly because of its namesake, its first person perspective. That's personally I think that that's why they'd say that. I can talk about it all day and say that's absolute crap.
I mean,
Um,
I will explain in a second why that is crap, but that I do agree with because it is easy to say that simulating violence makes people want to be more violent. Like, it is easy to say that.
yeah, and if you kind of think, well, not that if you think about it, people say the same thing. Like, for instance, you mentioned Grand Theft Auto. Think of this. What's his name? Jack Thompson said that a lot of older guys, I say older guys, use GTA as like a murder and carjacking simulator. I don't know where he got that from, but like what Deacon said, I think it's more of an outlet than anything. But why people would say that, I can only assume it's because of its first person aspect. Almost makes it feel like it's a simulation.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that. That argument would have validity with me if it wasn't for one fact.
Okay. Well, the thing is, GTA only went first person with GTA 5 in the next generation consoles.
I know.
So
I was just using that as a second example for why people say video games cause violence. But there is one
yeah.
reason why I disagree with that argument that it's a simulation, that, like, immersing yourself in the world is what causes the violence. And that's because TV and books have done the same thing, albeit a bit differently, but the same thing for years. And there have been plenty of people who have claimed they have done what they did because that form of media told them to. Apparently, the guy who killed John Lennon said he did it because he was inspired by Catcher in the Rye. That is a book. A book you
Seriously?
teach in high school, I might add. Yeah, apparently the guy who shot John Lennon, he said it was because Catcher in the Rye.
Oh my god.
That is a book you teach kids in high school. And this guy said he tried and murdered a guy because of that book. TV. There have been many people. Like, well, I shouldn't say many. Several. Some. There have been plenty of people who have been inspired by movies to do things. Like, there was a killing that was inspired by the Scream movies. Video games are no different than any of that. I am sure there are some people, a very small amount of people, who are inspired by these forms of media. But they are rare and far in between to the average Joe.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you there.
Yeah,
There's
because,
nothing to argue about.
yeah, again, like movies, TV, books, they have inspired plenty of things, good and bad. Video games are no different. And much like those other forms of media, that percentage of people who are inspired to do that thing is a hell of a lot smaller than the percentage who are just normal people who just play these games.
Yeah, yeah. I can't. All I can really say is yeah. There's nothing really else that I can say about it.
Yeah. Now, FPSs have made a legacy in the gaming community. Like, they are some of the most well-known gaming genres out there.
Of course.
But, and while I'm not personally a fan of them, like, the biggest fan of them, I do, at the very least, understand why people like them. Also, it doesn't help that I played a lot of crappy FPSs. Like, the crappiest one I think I ever played was either Alien Colonial Marines or Battleship, the movie, the video game.
Oh my god.
Ew, you played that?
I lost a bet.
You lost a bet.
Yeah, I lost a bet. Like,
That's a good one. That's a good
No.
one. That's a good reason.
Now the one thing I got lucky with when it came to Aliens Colonial Marine, I got the game for $5, even though it was full price.
lucky you. So
because GameStop did a fuck up.
Well, I mean, that's GameStop has done plenty of those, but do you want to know what the bet was?
What?
It was a Super Bowl bet. I can't remember which one, but the bet was basically, hey, loser has to play a god awful game that the winner picks. They have to pay for it, and they have to play it. And I agreed. and I lost, and they picked Battleship. And I didn't care about the bets. Like, I played it for maybe an hour, and I just was like, I can't do this. This is awful. This is really awful. But what do you guys think? What are some of your favorite FPSs, and what are some of your worst? Let us know in the comments. And until then, this has been Throwing the Podcast.